So to kick it off, I just want to remind everybody that this is our January partner office hour, as it says on the screen, and ADC is here to host it. We do partner office hours every other month, I believe. And that's also dependent on whether or not we have a partner that's interested in bringing something forward to show to customers. We recommend that they bring a customer with them to talk about the experience working with the partner and explain more about what the value has been to their company. We also offer office hours, which are more customer to customer type engagements, where we, let you talk about how you're using LumApps, what problems you're running into, help answer each other's questions. We also do an Ask a Consultant, where we bring one of our implementation consultants and we rotate through the list of consultants that we have so that you can hear from different people at different times. And then you can ask those more technical questions and hopefully come away with an answer. And if you don't get an answer on the call, either from the consultant or another customer, we do circle back with people afterwards. And then finally, we do this year have product hours. So the product team very often has content that they want to talk to you about, a new feature, an update to an existing feature, some beta program that they're working on and they want to recruit for, things like that. And we give them the opportunity to come and present that to you and for you to ask questions. So I would encourage all of you to take a look at the LumApps community and find those. And you can also see those in the Hive Week in Review that I send out on Fridays. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Misha to get us started on today's agenda.
Thank you so much, Tracy. It's really great to be here. So as part of this partner office hours with ADC about covering analytics. So here's the agenda. First, we want to obviously introduce ourselves, who ADC is, talk about a little bit about what we do with regards to integration and analytics services, because those two topics, they might seem a little different, they actually go hand in hand together, as we'll see in this presentation that we've put together with Sean from Glassguru, who will also introduce himself obviously he's really the star of the show. He'll talk about the use cases that we did and about their overall LumApps use case as well. I think this is a really unique presentation. And I think, Tracy, you really, a lot of credit to you for putting some of this together where we can kind of bring together a customer story. And I think it's unique, really, because we see how customers really adopt LumApps, how they extend LumApps through integrations, with analytics, with other experiences, right? And how each, like you said before, we're talking kind of behind the scenes, right, so to speak, how everybody brings their own unique experiences to LumApps, use it in their own unique ways, right? And I think this is a really great story with Glassguru, and I think it's going to be very more holistic. Obviously, analytics is the key pillar here, but Sean will definitely cover a lot of other business cases around how they use it and also talk about how we've worked together as well. So another point I want to say before going forward, so we really are going to cover two areas of analytics here. First one is we're going to talk about the analytics experience that we built with the Looker integration, because the Looker kind of has two products, as those folks who are watching and those folks who might like tune in later and watch the recording. Looker has, and you shouldn't be confused, there's Looker, the product itself, that's a Google ISV, that's more targeted towards data analysts, right? And it's there to kind of for folks who are like very technical to get in, come in, put in raw data, and take the analytics from like all different areas of the enterprise environment and bring it into the dashboard, right? That's kind of the Looker experience in and of itself that requires you having the customer having the Looker set up in their environment as a separate license, and bring that into LumApps, which requires specific SSO and permissions, which we've worked on building. There's a second layer of Looker, which is Looker Studio, as building custom dashboards, use Looker Studio dashboards for Google customers, right? And that's obviously the second part of it that we'll discuss as well. We'll show how, sample data will, Sean will also go in and show that part of it as well, how he's using data dashboards. We've helped build with him. So it's a very rich presentation. Also, I want to say it's unique because you won't get to see too often this data presented in the customer live environment. And here we have really 3 live demos where Sean is really going to dive into his environment in the Glass Guru and show how these experiences are used in his environment, which is also, I think, very unique to this presentation. Without further ado, so who we are, just a highlight. So first of all, my name is Misha, founder of ADC, and I ex-Lumi, worked with LumApps since 2017, and with ADC since 2020, and work with kind of the back end, the strategy part, the implementation side. I essentially been there from almost the very beginning, since LumApps opened up channels and offices in the North America. A lot of the team in LumApps that I know from a long time ago, they're like family to me. So this is really a place that's near dear to my heart and very close to home. And Ivo is my counterpart. Ivo, do you want to say a few words?
Yes, thanks a lot, Misha. Well, I am Ivo, and I am an ex-Lumi also. I joined in 2017 also, along with Misha. I think a couple of months before, as a software engineer in the R&D department. And here at ADC, I am leading the integrations effort. I have a slightly more technical profile than Misha, and I am the one digging deeply in the problems of our customers to find the best technical solution. So I've been a software engineer at LumApps, and I know how the product works in its inner details. At the same time, I have a good basis in software engineering at large, so I'm familiar with APIs, authentication and authorization, data pipelines, cloud infrastructure, security, and the privacy aspects of software development. So to resume my role in a few words, I write services that allow our customers to connect different pieces of their software ecosystem in a single user experience or a single source of truth. So, well, that's me. That's my role at ADC. Thanks a lot, Misha. Back to you.
Thanks, you. And I just want to add one more thing. Usually nowadays we have a question, we go to AI, ask artificial intelligence. I go to my AI, which is really amazing Evo. That's Evo. So who we are, we basically ADC, the vision for ADC was to make LumApps a very simple and happy experience for our customers, because LumApps has been growing, which it should, has been evolving and really extending itself to kind of meet the demands and meet the needs of customers, meet the market, and extensibility with integrations and the widget extensions and other add-ons that has been building. So our goal really, because we know the back end, the strategy, the architecture, and kind of our really role here is to study the customer case, study the business case, and really make it very clean, very simple, and very effective for our customers. So that's really our vision, our motto. That's been the motto since day one, making a simpler, happier experience. Obviously, we're a LumApps tech partner, and we certified in all areas of LumApps. And these 6 areas are the ones we really offer support in, and analytics, UI UX design, training, search, strategy. The areas we are going to be focusing on today, really, like I said before, analytics, custom integrations. Those two really, even though it might seem very different, they actually do go hand in hand together, because a lot of times you have to build integrations to bring in data analytics into your models, right, into your dashboards, whatever tool you're using, Looker, Databricks, or any other tool really that's out there in the market. Just also our presence in LumApps Marketplace. So we now have over 30 extensions. That's a big number of extensions that we have. Some of these are you can see in the LumApps Essential Marketplace or trials. Some of these are more private. Some of these are only used for us that we built, right? So that's a very big bank of extensions, LumApps extensions that we built in the marketplace. I think we're only second to LumApps still to have so many great, amazing extensions. Ivo, thank you very much for that. And obviously to LumApps, to the great folks at CSM, Jen and her team, to kind of help bring the some customer cases that we can, very complicated ones that only we can kind of come in and tackle and help with the scalability model for both our customers as well as for LumApps, so that to keep customers happy. I just want to cover this one last slide about integrations, because this one is important. This is related to today. So we built third-party integrations, which is kind of having third-party tools communicate with LumApps, Video, Cultura, Achievers for gamification, Bunchbowl, and the one really we'll be talking about today is Looker, that we've worked on building with our partner Sean, partner and friend Sean from the Glasgow Enterprise. Okay, now as they say, Sean, it's your turn. Over to Sean.
All right, great. Well, just to talk a little bit about me, the Glasgow Enterprise is the franchisor for a North American franchise organization. We have, about 80 some odd locations in the US and Canada. I've been kicking around franchising for, I hate to say this, for 30 years consecutively. For about 20 of that, I've been helping facilitate technology stacks on behalf of the franchisees, as well as developing technology solutions for franchisors. It's a similar scenario as, like a multi-unit business, although we actually get, in many ways, we get to tell franchisees what to do, but we don't get to tell their staff what to do, because there is a clear separation there. So, we have to take the kinder, friendlier approach to effectively drive initiatives home, because we have to make things enticing. We engaged with LumApps kind of back in the 2017, 2018 era. So, we both Misha and Ivo, where I think we're still Lumies at the time we first engaged. And interestingly, we chose LumApps before we chose Looker. We're a Google Workspace enterprise. LumApps was the perfect solution for us because it sits on top of that, and it really addressed all of our needs, from SSO authentication to document management, because we love Drive, and essentially being able to parrot all the groups that we set up in Google and then drive that through to LumApps. That was a huge attractive feature for us. Let's talk a little bit about why we chose Looker for analytics. We have a unique use case, as I said. We can't compel people to go to our intranet. We have many siloed SaaS apps, and LumApps is not an app that is absolutely required for our franchisees to do business. So we have to have compelling content. And I believe that analytics is content plus storytelling. It is a compelling way to tell stories about the nature of the business, the performance of the business, the performance of individual team members. And we find in franchising that one of the most common things with franchising, and I think with any other type of business, is we like to compare ourselves to others. Well, franchising is unique because everyone's operating under the same business model. So being able to put compelling content about their operation, about how they compare against everybody else. Case in point, I'm not going to share it today, but we have a series of ranking charts we're actually rebuilding right now, because we've completely ripped up our field service management. We're migrating to a new one. So we technically have our ranking charts down, because that's where about 80% of those rankings come from. But when those are active, if the ranking charts go down on Guru HQ, which is our LumApps instance, we'll get more support tickets when those go down than when the consumer website, the #1 source of new leads, goes down. So that tells you how much they actually want to see how they compare to others. We wanted to be able to drive users to LumApps, out of that SaaS world. So analytics was a great way to do it. We chose Looker because of its embeddability, the data curation capabilities, so that we can essentially create a nice, clean semantic layer where everything's joined. And when we democratize that data, nobody has to worry about that stuff. If our corporate users want to do things in Looker Studio, they can do that, and they can tap that Looker data layer. We also can have, very sophisticated, private, embedded dashboards, looks, explorers that we can place into LumApps and other applications with the tools that we've been able to build with ADC. what's cool is eventually LumApps chose Looker too. So it actually we were like, yeah, that's awesome, because anytime you're looking at the analytics that are provided inside of the LumApps environment, it has some congruency with the dashboards that we're putting up, because they're both Looker. So that was great for us. We had a great need for private and scalable dashboards. We wanted to ensure that we were able to create one dashboard and then distribute that to all of the franchisees, so they could see their local view and be able to heavily control about what the filter settings were going to be, were they going to be able to drill down into the data, and we wanted to ensure that they were seeing only data that they were authorized to view, because obviously privacy is a very big concern. And that really brought us to look very heavily at Looker's SSO embedding API. Now, we certainly could have, dove into that API and figured out how to, kind of work through that ourselves. But instead of doing that, I called my friend Misha. And Misha and Ivo and I had some great discussions about what the capabilities might be if we were able to accomplish this. And this whole concept of an enhanced widget came to the forefront. And I'm really, really glad that it did. Working with ADC checked all the boxes on this project, but we also had some value bonus added API integrations that came as an outcome of this work that we did, because we can effectively utilize the same code that we used for private SSO embedding of Looker dashboards in LumApps with other apps. And it's pretty elegant how that got stitched together. So, without, further ado, I don't know if I have much more to say about us.
No, if I can, just one thing I wanted to maybe ask you, just talk a little bit about the users, the different types of users, right? Who are the consumers of data?
Yeah. No, everyone talks about their internal and external customers. I have two layers of internal customers and then the external customer, which is the consumer. So in the franchising world, you obviously have the franchisor team. We have a team of approximately 20 right now. And I help curate and manage the stack for the franchisor. And then we have approximately a 650 user community in form of our franchisees and their teams. And so every one of those franchise locations obviously needs to be able to see global analytics and comparatives, but they also need to be able to see kind of their local information. We're obviously able to parse out pages in LumApps very easily to accommodate these audiences using groups, but that became a little bit more difficult when it came to analytics. What's great is we were able to effectively use Google as the IDP all the way through and through. So we build in attributes into our Google Workspace about what franchise they belong to, what's their franchise role, are they a multi-unit owner? And we're able to effectively take those attributes in whether we're working with LumApps or we're working with other apps in sign on with Google, where we can pass those attributes over and using SAML to effectively establish identity and ensure that they're seeing what they're supposed to see. And that's essentially how we set up Looker. So everything in Looker is in parity with how we would serve data up in LumApps, and that just really simplified things. We add them to the group in Google, and everything else is good to go.
And I think what's really cool is that like anybody who's a franchisee, right, a franchise owner, can come into an experienced LumApps, bring up a dashboard, right, and see their stats for their specific franchise, right? I want a Glasgow franchise, in Tennessee or Southern Pennsylvania, right? I can see what my stats are, like what the revenue is, right? All those kind of things. You can actually bring it right there and see it directly from LumApps, which is, I think, quite unique for amongst all the other customers. Most customers use for top-down comms or get knowledge, which obviously Guru has as well. I know you're going to share a little bit now about your Guru library, right, and your comms, but the business owners themselves can come in and they use LumApps to get business-related data out of it because through the analytics.
And it's not even really not even just our franchisees. The world of franchising often involves adopting some sort of homogenized franchisor or franchisee specific SaaS application that has all of the feature sets built into one suite. They don't necessarily do all of those things really well, and you can't change out any of those feature sets. If you decide to go with something else on the CX side or the CRM side, now you have this siloed SaaS app outside of this suite, and then you have redundant functionality and people don't know where to go. Yeah. When we decided to break that wheel, we took the risk of taking our franchisees into siloed SaaS applications. So, the first thing was log in with Google. Let's give everybody a single sign-on for everything that we use as best as possible. Secondly, we want to set up a series of integrations where, Loom means lump. We want to bring everything together. That's why we got LumApps, and we want to effectively give them, links to their, most commonly used applications, which we've done in an application directory. But we also want to make sure that we're able to bring in pertinent information from all of those different stacks, or all the different applications in our stack, rather, into LumApps, so that they can, in 5 minutes a day, they can see what they need to see. And I'm going to go ahead and should I go ahead? I'm going to go ahead and share now, Misha, if that's cool.
Yep.
And let's go ahead and everybody should be able to see Gear HQ at this point.
Yep.
And I'm not going to dive in, too deeply, because we want to look at analytics today. But as Misha said, we have our homepage here. We try to put our news, in the forefront. We have individual franchise location pages where they can see stuff about them. When we have webinars on the calendar, it's going to populate this little calendar here. We have our useful links, which would be all of our siloed SaaS applications, and then we have communities. We obviously aggregate all of our news on one place. We've got our library, which is all of our learning resources, and soon to be individual resources as well as learning resources. So I kind of look at it, the university, and then we also have the library. You can get all the books in the library, but we still are going to be building out our own courses. We aren't going to be using LumApps Learning yet. And we're able to keep a pretty simple profile on our learning. It's more about just aggregating what they need to go through, and getting some validation at the end of that. We've got our company directory. We've got some external links. We have a link to our support portal. We actually use Gear HQ for our internal HR portal, for our franchisor team. And so these are some of the different ways that we leverage this. For the sake of today, the samples I'm going to be providing are off nav samples. So I'm actually going to go over and I'm going to go to our pages. And I'm just going to pull up the very first one. This is our first sample report, just to be able to view that. And I'm on now. Oh wait, I opened the wrong page. My bad. That's the blank one I'm supposed to be editing. Let's see here. Yeah, maybe I did kill that one. Well, I might have to dive into the next one. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Never mind. So this is one of the many dashboards that we put together for our franchisees. This initially started in Looker as something that we didn't embed. We just did push reporting, where we were able to essentially send a PDF of this report on a regular basis from Looker directly to the franchisees. We are in the process of updating this so that we can make this available to the franchisees, so they can go in and they can actually run their own queries. We're just trying to be careful that the dashboard doesn't create more questions than it answers. I guess that's some of the, because we regularly get requests for, PPC audits, because we tend to facilitate the pay-per-click for our franchisees. So this is just an example of how we're able to roll up all of the Google ads. This is for the last complete year. We've actually set up a comparative filter in Looker to allow for those comparatives year over year in this particular case. So this is 2024 versus 2023. We were way up on conversions. We were down on some of the other things, but ultimately conversions are what matter. And then we also do some cost per click with Yelp, and so we included that in the dashboard. You can see that this is seamless. For anybody who uses Looker, this is going to look painfully familiar, right? We do have the ability to come in and say, hey, we want to be able to change this filter. This would be an example of dashboard that I would make available to our franchisor team, because so typically they franchisees wouldn't have the ability to go look at everybody else's metrics unless we chose to do that. But as soon as we change the filter, we click update, and the dashboard is going to update. What's powering this obviously is Looker, but what makes it gives us this capability inside of LumApps is that when we initiated this page, the integration that we were able to create in this extended widget with ADC, it's reaching out to Looker and it's establishing a unique private session based on my Looker privileges. and then embedding that version of that dashboard into this page. And so everybody, if they have different data views, then everybody will have the, only what they can see. I sort of have God mode, so I can see everybody. So full filter capabilities. The widget takes care of all the iframing, everything else. It's really great to be able to work with this. If the user has privileges, if folks are obviously familiar with the Looker features, you can explore from here, and we can actually take a deeper dive into a particular value, and it'll actually open the Looker Explorer right here within LumApps, and we can go through and we can explore the data. We can change the query on our own in terms of the filters. We can even add and remove fields in this Explorer, which is pretty cool. So that that's the whole concept of Looker really in democratizing data, is giving people a dashboard and then letting them drill down and accessing the data that we choose to allow them to drill into. You could of course have a closed dashboard where they didn't have these drill down capabilities. So that's the first example I have. Yeah, go ahead.
Did you have to log in to have all this?
I did not have to log in whatsoever. So the LumApps authentication, the great thing about the Looker SSO embedding is that it gives you a variety of different ways, different attributes that you can use to drive that authentication. Well, almost everywhere, the unique identifier is email, right? So if you look at Google as IDP, email is what we're looking for. It's the same thing for Looker and how we set it up. And so in this integration, again, as soon as I opened this page, the API kicked off from the widget. It went out to Looker and it said, hey, does Sean.y@theglassdoor.com have privileges? Looker says, yes, it sure does. And its API packages the URL and hands it back and embeds it into the iframe. And so every one of these sessions is unique. When I leave this page, this session will get killed. And as soon as I come back to this page, a new session through the API is going to be generated by Looker. That URL is going to get handed back to LumApps via that API and the widget, and it's going to be displayed on the page the way that we have defined it inside of LumApps as content. So that's a kind of an existing example that we had built. I have another example. I just want to show everyone how easy it is to actually add an existing dashboard that you have in Looker to LumApps in this environment. So again, I'm going to go over to Pages, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new page, and we're just going to do an analytics full page, and we're just going to do this. And this is going to be territory analysis. So we've got our page name. We might as well give it to, we're just going to keep this as administrators and developers right now. So we've got the baseline requirements to actually save this page. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add the extension widget. So we're going to go over here to extension widgets, and you will see here we have the Looker embed. I'm going to add that, and then the widget's going to immediately begin to ask me questions. There's a couple of different ways that we can build dashboards. We have the wizard and we have the automagical. And what's interesting is it's not either or. You can generally work a hybrid between the two, which is kind of neat. The wizard is the easiest way. You can say, hey, I'm going to use the wizard. What type of image do I want to do? We only embed dashboards. So we just generally speaking only, and I say that now, we're building out some more franchisor resources where we might be doing things like looks or explorers, which are just different ways of viewing data in Looker. We don't go near the query visualization feature, but if that's your flavor and that's how you distribute Looker visualizations, that's available as well inside of this widget. And all you have to do is give the widget a dashboard ID, just a simple dashboard ID. Those of you who know Looker, you get a unique ID for every single dashboard that you use. And as soon as I drop that in there, you can see our territory analysis dashboard that is dropping in. And this is essentially a way that we look at penetration into each location's territory. We're getting gross sales per housing unit, and also households. We look at median age. We have kind of a magic number that we look for, which is a post 1989 build ratio for our business, based on the age of homes. Homes that are built before that don't typically have vinyl clad dual pane windows, which is our #1 target. So we look for territories that are rich in kind of that post 1809 build ratio, the suburban sprawl. All those windows are failing when those homes were built in those areas. We, aggregate a little heat map, if you will. So pretty cool. This is baseline. There's no filters in play whatsoever. We could, if we wanted to, of course, we could hide the filter. This is really, really elegant because it's a little more difficult to define setting filters or hiding filters in URL attributes or parameters. It's way easier to do it here. If I just type in franchise name and click anywhere, note that that franchise name status just appeared at the top of this filter. If I go ahead and I put status, or franchise name rather, filter, now both of those filters are hidden. So you can use this very, very easy feature inside the widget to hide those filters. Now, of course, I just hid the filters, and so we're looking at the network-wide view right now. So that may not be what we want to do. For those of you who are Looker users who like to use themes and you like to sort of bend Looker to have a unique look and feel for your organization, I know that I have a theme called FIM, and you can see that the entire look and feel of that dashboard changed based on a theme that I built in Looker, not here in LumApps. So it's very, very lean and very transparent in terms of what you have to manipulate here inside the widget. Everything else is based on what you've built over on the Looker side. Now, I have another unique way, just for grins, I'm going to go ahead and
Sean, just
say this.
before this is really I just wanted to let, so Narendra just joined from Ascension. Just wanted to kind of summarize quickly. So what you're presenting basically with this Looker extension we did, these are like custom personalized dashboards that a franchise owner could come in and in LumApps through the extension, they can see their own data from their own franchisee, right? Each franchisee can see it based on what their stats are, and that's kind of the value of some of these things, that kind of seeing data about the business, about the location, about some certain area aspect of the enterprise directly in LumApps, right? So kind of like a single, somebody comes in without a need for additional access, can kind of see it but directly right in LumApps without going to like multiple areas at once. So I think that's the
Absolutely. And for me, the big, one of my biggest peeves is hitting an authentication roadblock inside of an iframe. Yeah, that's just been the thing I've tried to avoid across the board, and anything that we're trying to do here in LumApps, because we're bringing a lot of content in from other things. Nobody wants to see that, right? And so we already know who they are in the LumApps ecosystem. We already know who they are in the Google ecosystem. So it just made sense to work with a partner like ADC to take advantage of the Looker's SSO embedding API, and it works exactly as planned. Now, the other thing that really was a big use case for us was I have 85 franchises. I didn't want to create 85 dashboards. What if I want to add a tile to that dashboard? Well, that's a lot of overhead to try to curate 85 dashboards. And then what if every franchise has 10 dashboards? Now I have 850. That's untenable. So we have the ability, using URL attributes or parameters in Looker, to define what filter values should be, and then we can hide the filters. So I'm going to actually go through that use case. This is a single dashboard, but I'd have the ability to create 85 different flavors of this really, really quickly. If I go back over and I edit this, and if I go into the widget, and I'm going to kind of do a hybrid. This is, again, you can bounce back and forth between Wizard and Automagical. And unlike a lot of other widget settings where you sort of, the settings for the other choice go away, this is a little different. It's kind of cool. I have a URL here that I have actually created in Looker that isolates this dashboard to a specific franchise. So I'm going to drop that URL in here now. And you're going to see at the very top, the filter name changed. The name in our franchise name filter changed. It's now our Atascocita, Texas location. And you can see the dashboard has a radically different view now. If I were to go ahead and change this back to Wizard, the source URL didn't change. It still left those settings. And if I come down, you can actually see, you can manually put these parameters right here in the widget. So if you wanted to actually filter franchise name to Atascocita, Texas, you certainly can do that. It's a little more challenging because you have to know the encoded values of whatever that filter value is going to be. What I tend to do is I set that filter over in Looker, copy the embedded URL, and then bring it back over here. And so now I have a dashboard for Atascocita. Now, what if I want to go ahead and hide? I want to hide franchise name, and I want to hide status. So now I have created a unique flavor of this dashboard only for our Atascocita franchise location. They cannot filter for other locations. This is only their data. Based on the dashboard, I can lock down some of the other things like the ability to explore from here, all that good stuff. So they can't necessarily go see the raw data, but they can see at a high level the metrics I want them to see. Again, I can also theme this. Give it a different theme. And I can then save it. And if I were to go into the parameters, yeah, so it's basically got everything that we need in terms of filter values there. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And so now all I really need to know is how can I create in mass different URLs for every location? Well, I use the magic of Google Sheets for that. And so I basically just get an entire sheet that populates all of those URLs. And then we've actually got another integration that we've worked on with ADC that helps us take those URLs and cram them into very specific widgets on very specific pages, even deriving values from things like page title. So if the franchise names that it's that unique identifier that we use is in fact the page title, then we can essentially force the widgets on that page to comply. And it really simplifies my ability to curate a ton of individual LumApps pages, which everyone knows can be a challenge. If you've got a bunch of pages that look the same way and now you want to make one change, it's not as easy as we'd like it to be, but that work that we've done with ADC has made those, specifically our franchise location pages, really, really easy. And so we populate a spreadsheet, we mash a button. Well, ADC mashes a button. And now I have all those pages that are being spawned with the very, very specific Looker URLs that we want, as well as some other apps that we've defined where that franchise name is the unique identifier that gets crammed into the URL that's being embedded. So it's really, really slick stuff. Let me go ahead and save this, and I'm going to just go ahead and exit out so we can view the full page. And look at how shiny that is. Scroll down, and you can see that this is obviously now just the franchise territory. We're not looking at North America at large. It's kind of interesting how far outside the territory this franchise goes. They're not precluded from doing that as long as they're not going into another franchise's territory. Probably the next thing we're doing here is we're going to be adding to Looker a dimension of the geographic layer of the territory boundary. So they'll actually see the line they're not supposed to cross in this map as well. We were doing manual plot mapping and heat mapping for franchisees based on data that we would export out of our FSM, and we'd have to go over and we go to our mapping software. And yeah, it took a lot of time. We're essentially going to be able to automate that here in 2025. So that's going to be really, really cool. So
really great looking LumApps page with a great looking dashboard.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, I keep telling everybody that, the person who's driving the technology, but specifically the one that's driving the stack and all of the data analytics is an art major. I took math for liberal arts majors. That's as far as I went. But I absolutely do believe in my heart that the analytics tell a story. It's about asking the right question and then being able to tell a story from that. And if you can make them interactive, if you can make them visually appealing, that is content that will bring usership to our LumApps instance. That'll bring them into Gear HQ.
Excuse me, Sean. In fact, I wanted just to add one detail. In fact, you mentioned the fact that you were going to create many different pages. But I think that in reality, that Looker embed also takes parameters on the address of the page. So instead of creating let's say 50 pages, one per every franchise, and then have that filter selected in the widget settings, you could also just pass that parameter on the address of the page.
No, so absolutely. Yeah. Well, I thought I mentioned that, but yeah, that's absolutely what we built for those multiple franchise location pages for the local analytics that we're not going to share today. That's absolutely how we did it, where essentially, I create one dashboard, and we're able to effectively flip the switch based on page title. which was great. It's grabbing right from page title and inserting that into the attribute for the widget, which is really, really slick. So that was, kind of an enhancement to the current SSO embedding widget, enhanced widget that was built. We took that and added value by having one little extra the value added LumApps piece, which is passing the page title to the URL parameter for the dashboard, and it automatically updates it. So if we were on a Toscasitas page, this is what they would see because the URL is actually driven that way. So it's good stuff.
Also, do we talk about NAC a little bit? I can't remember if that's...
Yeah, no, we didn't talk about that. If we've got time at the end of the call, we've got some other work that we've done with ADC, and ADC is more than just our LumApps SME. We do all kinds of other integrations with them, and we have another application. It's our only sort of custom app that we have. It's built in the NAC environment, which is a great low code, no code environment. I am not a coder, but I write tens of thousands of lines of code. NAC doesn't really require that I do so. But it plays really nice with Google. It embeds really nicely into LumApps, and we built what we call our franchise information manager. It is essentially a very tailored CRM about franchising, about all of our franchisees, their legal agreements, their staff, all of that. And we wanted to be able to affect these same types of secure embeds into that application. Well, with all his grace, Evo was able to basically wire them together. It's very, essentially we have the same functionality in NAC that we do here in LumApps, and that we derive the ID of the user who's logged in to that franchise information manager, and we display only the dashboards that they're supposed to see and the data that they have access to behind it. And it's all done in the, kind of the same sleek, elegant code. So it's been really a value add for us.
Okay, this is great. Thanks so much, Sean. This is really, I think this really presents really well. Tracy, anything? Do we have time to go continue, or questions, or what do you think would be the next?
Well, we could ask Narendra if he's got any questions he wants to ask based on what he's seen so far. And then, of course, if there aren't questions, we could go ahead and you could show something else.
Okay.
Thank you, Tracy. What I see, I love it. That is driven through a single widget is an awesome concept. So I came in halfway, but what all I saw was really nice. Great job, guys.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure working on this project. It's one I've been passionate about, and it's, as always, it's fun. It's just fun working with ADC because we develop in a we environment, not a Glassdoor environment or an ADC environment. We try to look forward and go, this works for us in our use case. How can that translate to other customers' use case within the LumApps and Looker environments? And we thought that this one it hit the mark on a lot of different levels. So appreciate that.
Sean, it really gave me tons of ideas looking at what you've done here. So
Good. That's what I think. That's the whole point to Tracy spearheading these calls. I think is just for us to get ideas. As somebody who's been in LumApps since late 2017 or mid 2017, whenever it was, we have to go back and look at that original contract. That was the thing that we thirsted for, I think, in the beginning, was conceptually finding out how other people were using it, right? Because it's very much a blank slate. Like, here you are. And where LumApps is now and where they were in 2017 is night and day. Like, there's a lot of practical examples. Even if I go look at the Hive all the time, I just see how LumApps does stuff in the Hive. And there's some great examples there. But the more and more that customers are willing to share their instance, obviously I'm not giving you the full tour, right? There's some proprietary stuff that we're not going to share. I think there's value in that. There's a lot of value in that because it gives us all ideas.
That is exactly the concept of this, and not just the partner series, but all of the different office hour series is seeing how other people are doing things, because you as a single individual or even a team of individuals at your company, there's no way that you're going to come up with all of it. You don't have the experience or the time or the imagination to come up with everything. It really helps to see what other people are doing, how they're doing it, and then to go, oh, wow, I can't do this because I don't have franchisees, but I could do something like this with my departments. Or I could do this with, um, in Narendra's case, different hospital organizations, different,
Yep.
I forget the word that they use for that, different ministries.
Yeah.
So just having the ability to see an experience and then think about how you might be able to apply it yourself. Um, and then what I've seen in the past is, you know, sometimes people will come back to Sean and say, "Hey, look, you showed me this. This is what I've done with it, and this is how I've extended it." And then Sean might get inspired to do something further with what he's doing. So it's a way for you to feed off of each other and to help each other move forward more quickly, without having to have more people on your team.
Yeah, I was and continue to be an army of one here. When we first launched this, I was an army of one, and it was funny after my first Lux event, which I think was 2018. I think it was the inaugural Lux event in San Francisco. I had folks from, I think it was the team at New Relic, who had an entire intranet team call me 14 months after that. Hey, how did you implement and deploy LumApps? And I'm like, here I'm my army of one. You know, I gave them, you know, my better practices, and a lot of it came down to just proper planning prevents poor execution. Make sure you understand taxonomy and metadata and your page structure and your audiences, all that good stuff. But that was fun to get that call from New Relic and go, well, I'm happy to help. But the reason that I'm an enthusiastic participant in calls like this is because I'm almost always going to learn something too. So it sounds like we have some time to dive into another example of some work we've done with ADC. Um, Not everybody has the luxury of using Looker beyond just creating the semantic layer and actually propagating it down to viewer roles for all of their users. We actually don't. It's just for our franchisees in terms of the private data, because obviously it gets costly. There are also use cases with Looker where end users don't get access to Looker. The semantic layer is really for the data analysts to put together different pieces, and then they are push those downstream through other visualization tools. Well, part and parcel to Looker, you have Looker Studio, and then essentially as a viewer, Looker Studio is essentially free. So that also can be a way that folks, they create the semantic layer in Looker. They use Looker action centers to create different slices of data that they then can push downstream just in Looker Studio. Our use case is a little different in that we were using GA4, but this is something that we've worked with ADC on. Right, actually, it's off nav right now. It's so new, but we have a brand new GA4 dashboard that's pointing at LumApps, and so it's allowing us to go in, get a pretty good understanding of our user rates, top searches, top users by email. So we just kind of know who's logging in the most viewed content, our scroll depth analysis, page views and unique views. I'm not sure on the missing data source there, Misha. We'll have to look at that one. Page views, unique views, and sessions by franchise. And then there is a secondary page where we basically have all the search terms and all of that, which is, honestly, this is still pretty new. So I'm still diving into this, but we did absolutely use this in our executive leadership meeting that we had a few days ago, just talking about our technology roadmap going out through like 2027 and 2028. We are constantly evaluating and evaluating the value that we get from SaaS. Too often technology is seen as a cost center. Don't worry, LumApps is secure, but we look at how we use different apps. And Looker is always going to be part of how we create a semantic layer. Yeah, in my opinion, it's the best way to democratize data. In this case, we could have essentially taken GA4 data and done something in Looker and then pushed it, but it was way easier to work with Misha and the team over at ADC to create this dashboard, just tapping GA4 directly. So this is just another example of how you could do embedded analytics regardless of data source. And this is, likely more practical for a lot of use cases for folks using LumApps out there, in that Looker Studio is likely a more common way to democratize data to the common user, not the data analyst, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
People are able, often using it themselves to tap into their own data sources, whether it's, Google Sheets, or, if we give them access to a Looker layer, we can certainly do that, or any other data source that they have access to. And so it really, it self-enables people to create analytics that they like, and they're familiar in that environment. And so, and this look and feel can certainly be tweaked to however you want it to be. And Looker Studio also allows for certain things like URL attributes and things like that. If you want to switch this up and have a unique view of the same dashboard for multiple different users, it's just not necessarily done in that private environment that you have with a Looker SSO embed.
And obviously, there's a lot of data blending that can happen behind the scenes between this is purely GA4 and GTM, but then you can blend in, data lake sources. You can blend in from LumApps data lake from other APIs, and you can has done a lot of these kind of things. So it's really just really about what the data use case is, where the data is accessible, and then kind of creating the connection, right, to really make LumApps your one-stop shop experience, because really that's the goal, right? We want folks to kind of have a very easy, very simple experience to get their team data or their KPI data right there in front of them in a very simple, streamlined way, so they don't have to go and search into different tools and all these kind of things. So that's really kind of the case for a one-stop shop LumApps experience from an analytics perspective.
Yeah, extremely engaging content and painting a picture with numbers is essentially what analytics are. And everything that we do, if it's important to our franchisees, if it's important to my fellow franchisor team members, if it's important to our franchisees, if it's important to our teams, we want to find some means of getting it into Gear HQ so that they're getting what I call my 5 minutes a day. I want everybody in LumApps for 5 minutes a day. If they can do that, we're winning. They're seeing news posts and announcements. They're seeing the numbers that are important to them. They're able to find the resources that they need to find in the resource library. 5 minutes a day is our goal, and it continues to be our goal and aspiration. We're not there yet, but analytics will definitely be a key component of that. Misha, we might have time to do that last slide. If you want to do that, we could talk about some of the other stuff that we've done with you.
Yeah, I think that's a good 2 minute. If Tracy, you're okay with it, with 2 minutes left, I could definitely present.
Yeah, if you would still throw up that slide, and then I can certainly talk through those points and.
How do I present? Let me see if I can.
I don't know if do I need to stop presenting? Yeah, I'll stop my share.
Yeah, okay, that's perfect. So, yeah, one last thing. This is, and by the way, what you said earlier was really true about KPIs, and we have the 5 minute rule. That's a very realistic rule for, like adoption process, right? Sometimes people really want people to be there for hours, right? But really starting with the 5 minute baseline is really key from a strategy perspective, adoption of content adoption perspective for internet and going up.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it absolutely is. We tend to, whether it's intranet content or if it's a dashboard, we tend to have this feeling that we need to put everything including the kitchen sink in there. And the problem is that there's a large swath of us, I would say probably the meaty part of the bell curve, that can suffer from paralysis by analysis. So what we try to do in terms of numbers, as an example, is we might have a different flavor of a dashboard for a different location. Like, here are your 5 things. Well, here are your 5 things. If I'm somebody who's been in business for 12 years versus somebody who's been in business for a year, we're looking at totally different numbers. And that also might be very, very true of the content that we present in LumApps. And that's a big part of our initiative this year with our resource library, is being able to create very specific tracks that apply to roles. So not just featured for, but very, very heavily curated content lists of things that they need to go through if they're pre-launch, they're just now starting. They're in the startup phase. They've launched their location, but they're in their first year. Or they're an owner-independent business where the owner doesn't show up at 3 hours a week and it's completely staff run. Totally different experiences that they should have in terms of the content and content types that we present to them in LumApps. Some of the other things that we work with ADC on really go part and parcel with these things that we've done with this SSO embed enhanced widget. ETL connectors. We were doing so much work in NAC with Misha and Evo. I inquired about them creating an ETL connector, because we were doing a lot of work in Google Cloud in terms of like Cloud Run functions and things like that, and it just made sense all of our ETL connectors, when they're custom, that's what they use. And so we were able to work with ADC on creating that data connector, bringing NACDID into our data warehouse, and they are our ETL partner of choice at this point. We have ADC in our back pocket in case our connectors break. Evo is going to be way faster at going and analyzing those logs and helping us troubleshoot issues, which fortunately don't happen very often. But when they do, it's urgent. And then we've got a great big ETL connector in our new FSM software that's coming in the next 60 days. They're certainly subject matter experts around Google Workspace, and we've done some integrations where we've been able to bring Google Workspace data over into our NAC application and any subsequent NAC applications that we might choose to build. Obviously, we did the Looker integration. We've done several other NAC integrations with our franchise information manager. We're bringing in data from Freshdesk and from Asana, in addition to Google Workspace, into that application. And then obviously, current, and I probably expect some future collaborative efforts on what will become, extended widgets in the LumApps marketplace. Again, we try to build in the we paradigm, not in the us paradigm. And then, we're having ongoing discussions, 26, 27. Those are the years where, I'm going to feel like our data layer is pretty rock solid. And that's a good place to start when it comes to AI models and, focusing on our learning on heavily curated data. The best place to start is in your data stack versus trying to do some other type of sort of text-based or document-based learning and validation. Starting with your data stack is going to be big. So predictive analytics and all that stuff seem to be low-hanging fruit, and we'll likely be talking with ADC around those things as well for those future projects.
Well, that was a really great overview. Narendra, if you've got any other questions, now's the time. Otherwise, I think we are about ready to wrap up.
None from my side. Thank you, Tracy.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much. This was incredibly detailed and a great way to see an actual application instead of just sort of bandying about terms and talking in the abstract about analytics. It's really great to see how people have gone in and done it and what it can look like and what that helps you facilitate on your side. So I really appreciate Sean, you coming and showing this off, because Misha can talk about it, but without showing it, it's much less impactful. So thank you so much for your time. And I'm looking forward to being able to do this again in the future.
Thank you all very much. It was my pleasure.
Thanks
Have a
for
great rest of your day, everybody.
Misha, can you stay on the call, please?
I think maybe we can, Tracy, could we use this line, or should we just?
Oh, this is her line? Okay, then I'll connect you later.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
everybody.
Yep, bye.